Hello, my friends. I hope you're well. We've been talking about various spirit gifts the last couple of videos, as we've started this journey together. I want to talk tonight particularly about healing and the healing process and how it can work. And there are so many different ways that healing can come through a medium, particularly if you're an established healer already. Everybody has a way that they work, or the spirit works with them, or the spirit power works through them, so much depending on your own experiences, just as a person, as a personality, as an individual, because all of that is part and parcel of our gifts and how they manifest through us. So there's really no one way. The only way that we can judge any outcome for healing or mediumship is in the results. Are they provable? Do they have an effect on the person in a positive way? Are they insightful? With healing, has there been a change in possibly the physicality, the emotional state, the psychological state, or all three? Uh, I'll just give a quick example. I remember once I was working with a group of people. We were doing a group healing for a lady who had very bad fibroids, etc. And the healings had gone on. People for a while. People would go in as groups, so there'd be two people each time, and they would work on that client. And as we entered the room, I thought, I don't want to go anywhere near where her fibroids are. I need to put my hands on her head, and I was given that very clearly by spirit. And as I approached her, I went ice cold. I mean, ice cold. Hands, fingers, everything, ice cold. And the gentleman I was working with, he went to where the issue, as we knew, was there in the womb area with the fibroids. And he said, Alan, what are you doing? I said, I need to put my hands on her head. And he said, okay. So he did his thing. I did mine. Within 10 seconds of me putting my hands on this lady's head, and my hands, I tell you, were freezing. My fingertips were blue, underneath the fingernails. And there was a definitely powerful presence with me. And I thought, okay, guys, this is what's supposed to happen. I don't know what this means, really. And after those 10 or 15 seconds, she just said, oh, Alan, I have had a migraine for 3 days. That feels amazing. And I thought, this is what we have to do as healers. We have to be able to listen enough, even if a patient comes to us. I shouldn't say patient, but let's say client, for lack of a better word, someone seeking our help. And I say we can't really say patient because we're not doctors and nurses, and we can't take that role on, obviously. However, her point that she made to me was very clear, that we have to follow what's given to us. Even if they say, I have, God forbid, a cancer and it's here, the tumor is there, but you're approaching them, or you've done your attunement time and you come into the room and you're working with them and you feel you need to go to a slightly different area, I would say go to that area that you're being drawn to, and then go back after to the place that you consciously know where an issue is, because you never know how it's going to work as a healer. It's not up to us. It's not up to us to even really know if we're really working with spirit in terms of on-hands healing. And that's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about diagnostic healing. That's a different thing. I'm being very clear here. This is on-hands healing. That we are just the conduit, with the power comes through us. You might find yourself, while you're giving healing, to be in suddenly very deep prayer. I've had that happen many a time to me. All of a sudden, I'm just into this place of supplication of the divine, of the spirit world, of those in the intelligence of the spirit world, to come forward and work with this person and walk with them and help them find their way. And when I mean by help find their way, it's not just that we just do all the healing, or the spirit world, I say, does all the healing for them. So often people leave and they go, I've got this, I'm going to go check this something out that I've heard about now that I know works with my illness or my condition. And they start to take a bit more personal responsibility. They become a bit more activated in their own, or active in their own care. That to me is part of the healing. Because it's like if you were to give healing to a bunch of people who had arthritis, and part of the problem with their arthritis was living conditions or habits or how they where they worked, and it was irritating, the arthritic condition, and they kept on with those, that job or the living condition. And I know we can't always change those. I'm just using this as an example, please. Um, Chances are the healing that you've given will have an effect, but it's not going to have the same effect as if they could be taken into a different environment for a longer period of time to allow the healing to settle and to work. The other thing we have to understand, there are age related diseases, and our bodies are supposed to age, and these are, for some of us more than others, it's part of the cycle, but we can give a lot of relief. There's I approach this from the point of view of the spirit world working with us and through us. There's different types of healing. There's magnetic healing, which is just the energy that comes off the healer to a patient or a client or a soul who's asking for help. And that can be powerful. It can also be very draining on the healer. And in the long run, it's not as healthy, I believe, for the healer. I've seen people get very themselves worn out, and it's not that you take on the illness of the person you're working with, but it's very draining on the physicality. There is physicality involved, even with spirit healing, because you are the medium. There's an energy that has to be with you to allow the spirit world to work with you in a certain way. And this brings us to the big word for mediumship and healing: attunement time. People who are working in this fairly regularly, or every day or every other day, they really do a lot of attunement time, sitting in what they call the power. Some people call it the presence, and I like the presence better. I like sitting in the presence better than the power. The power to me can have those subtle ego tentacles that can be, you know, I'm sitting in the power, and suddenly you hear people talking about their power and sitting in their power as opposed to the power. But I like sitting in the presence. It takes the humanistic, egocentric self, it just tones it down a bit more, puts it on the side where it should be, and let the spirit world work with you. Let that divine power work through with you. The attunement time is something you'll have to discover on your, I mean, I can talk about it on here, and obviously I'm going to, but everybody has their own ways where they find attunement time for them works well. For me, I sit in prayer and meditation. I do what I call my awareness walks in nature. I have friends say, yeah, I go walking all the time. And I've been walking with a few of them, and they walk like 100 miles an hour. And it's more about their physical exercise. It's not about absorbing and feeling and attuning with the divine through nature and feeling every particle of energy and every piece of essence that comes from every source of life that's there, every tree, every branch, every fern, every blade of grass. Everything has that. And it brings us into balance. It also helps to stir in us our higher aspects, our love, our compassion, our strength, understanding, just acceptance, because that's what we have to do as healers and mediums. We may not always agree with the person that's walked through the door, and if we were to talk on a personal level, we might find that we have some very different ways of looking at the world. But you, as the medium, as the healer, you have to be accepting in the moment that you're working. You have to be the spiritual being. That's your role. And before and after can be different. Not before, but maybe after. But when you're dealing with people in a professional way, and I hate using the word professional because everything, people, that word gets bantered around so much now everywhere in every profession. It's like, well, I'm a professional, so and then again you hear the ego, and then you also hear someone who's saying, I'm not prepared to listen, and I know more than you, which through experience they probably do. But there's a place that sets us up in a way that I don't like. I would avoid that as much as possible, to use that phrase, because when we start to speak from a place of authority, unless we can really back it up with deep evidence and long-term results, we're really standing on thin ice. You're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you don't want to do that. You want to be the most loving being, the real spiritual you in that moment. You're not going to be that real spiritual you all the time when you're at the bank or your family sometime, because those are different places. But we should be able to take the next 2 or 3 steps up in our consciousness and our ability to attune with the divine, to be prepared to be the instrument. You'll find many people have different ways. I've always, and this was before I ever was instructed or taught how the spiritualists do healing. I always naturally would just put my hand on a person, or get close to them and try and comfort them, etc. And when I came into spiritualism, that's exactly what mostly how it works is on hands healing that way. I mean, there's distant healing, which is just as powerful. That's where we sit and we think about the person with the illness. We ask those in the spirit world who have that faculty to work with healing for that person, with us, to them, and to be with them. We can, and the other thing I think sometimes we forget about with that work is whatever family members are on the spirit world, to please join in with the circle of those healers to be with that person. That can bring a lot of healing as well, because our family and friends are always growing in spirit. Don't forget that. Just because they crossed over and they might have been, you know what, well, they were here, there might have been a lot of growth, and in that growth there might be a lot of I need to extend my love now, and I need to bring healing in some way to offset, maybe some of the things I wasn't so good in life. And that's open to all of us, including you, including me. That's a never-ending cycle. Never forget that. We're not perfect beings, none of us, and we all have our foibles and our problems. But it's the getting up again and keep going. So with that, just keep in mind there are many different ways that people will come at healing. Some people, they like to move their hands and see that they're pulling the condition out of the person. That can work. You might find that there's not one way that's always consistent. And I've experienced this a few times myself. I'll be doing on hands, and then privately, not in the churches, because the spiritualist churches run a different way, and I respect that very much, and I know why they do that. They need to. But you might have one hand on one part of the person, and you might be just gently having a bit of a movement in with your hand. I would very strongly suggest, in my opinion, that should only happen if it happens subconsciously and in a very natural way, not because it's the way you think it should be done. You see, and that's a very subtle difference. It's just like with mediumship. You can be trained a certain way, and so you always come at it with that training, which is good. But you need to have, let's say, the foundation so that spirit can work with you in the way that's necessary in that moment. And that's what I really want to get through to people. As a medium, as a healer, as an instrument, and think of yourself more as an instrument rather than a label. That it may happen in a way that surprises you, and it's different for you than it should. Whenever you do mediumship, everybody knows this. It's never the same. It can't be. Because then there's no authenticity. It's like standing up and doing an improvisation, but you only do the same type of improvisation all the time. Well, there's nothing inspiring happening. You've learned something, and it's very good, and you're probably very good at it. But that doesn't lean or let us be free. And we need a foundation so we can be free. And I have to tell you, there's a couple of balls of light that just went off in the room, and I'm looking at the clock here, and I have my healing group tonight at 7 o'clock, so I need to start wrapping up because it's 10 to 7. I just suddenly felt I needed to do this video now, and I thought, okay, I will. So I hope that helps a little bit. And remember, even in your daily life, you're walking down the street, you're in the car, you're in a shop, wherever, you're walking in the woods, people pass you, you can just think a good thought. Ask that the divine be with them, whatever that is to you. Ask for for whatever healing is needed. Wouldn't it be lovely if we were all doing that for each other? I would love it if I was walking past somebody and in their heart and minds they thought, we really asked for healing for that person today. We don't know why, we're just going to ask for it. Because you never know what someone's going through. There are, most people, if we're really honest, most people are like little heroes. There's so much going on in people's lives, and we have no idea. People make assumptions, and now more than ever, particularly with culture and race and everything. Now there's so many assumptions made, and it's so wrong. It's the wrong way to go, people. It is wrong. It's not going to. It's not going to lift us up. It's going to pull us down. And we want to reach out to people with that loving thought of healing being given to them. And not because it's you giving it, you're asking for it. And anybody can ask for it and ask for someone else. And you can also ask for yourself, by the way. I mean, if it's where things are really bad, sit down and say, have a real chat with the divine and the spirit. And just say, I need a little help right now. It's going badly. You may not feel it in that moment, but I'll guarantee you it will come around. So I like saying truth seekers because that's accurate. Seeking never ends. The evolution into the light never ends. The evolution of the spirit and soul never ends. At least as far as we know so far. At least as much as we've learned and have been given by the spirit world. Look for truth, but look for it in the most simplest ways. Real truth is never complicated. If somebody has to give a 25-minute speech to describe a very simple thing, there's a problem. I would caution against that. You want it to be easy and simple in the way it flows through you. But we all know, particularly healers and mediums, that getting to that point is not always easy. It's not just about sitting in the attunement time and sitting and talking to God and developing a relationship with the divine. It's living life. And most of us who've chosen this path have had very difficult lives. We've had more hardships than people will ever know. But it's necessary. Anyone on this type of path, it is necessary. I'm sorry to say, it's a requirement. And we know that can hurt. So thank you very much. God bless. Do what you can. Be little lights when you can. Not to get attention, but just to be there. Just to try and help when you can in the best way and the right way that the spirit world can work with you. Thank you.